Hi, are people still on this webinar?
You see the little heads at the bottom?
Yeah.
They're probably on there.
Well, no, I only see Sarah. Hey, if anybody's on the webinar, Rebecca has called me to say that her internet died in Washington, D.C. So I'm coming on, but I want to make sure that there's anybody here. That would be helpful.
Yeah, you can always send out an email. I mean, it's only been about 10 minutes, so it'd be kind of late if they dropped it on.
It looked like there was another hangout where everyone was in, and then I got an invite to this hangout, and I joined. And okay, there people are coming on. Never mind.
Okay.
I say go to the top where you push attendance, and you have to add them all in. I had to do this.
Oh, do I have to go click those green buttons?
Yeah, okay, up where like the little chat
Yep.
thing is.
Yep.
There's like 2 or 3 over. There's one you can click on that says attendance, and then you have to push all the little green buttons.
Okay. I've gone and pushed lots of green buttons.
Yeah.
Hi, can people hear me now?
It kind of takes a second, I think.
Oh, I see. Now little faces are popping up. Okay, Rebecca, I got it from here.
Okay, sorry. I'll let you know if my internet comes back.
Okay, that'd be great. Thank you. Bye. Hello, lovely people. Now you get Isaiah. Okay, I'm going to give it like one more second because it says some people are still red, and I want them to turn green. Well, everyone, I apologize for Rebecca's internet service provider. And I'm just glad she had my cell phone number. What I'm going to do is pull up a Prezi. Just have to remember. Yes. Okay. And I have my Avoiding Debater Speak one here. I'm going to share my screen. Let's see if this works. Since I am in full screen on the Prezi, could someone verbally please confirm that my screen is sharing the words Avoid Debater Speak in large friendly letters?
Yep.
Thank you. Okay. So if we spent probably, I don't know, 2.5 weeks worth of research into
Turn it back on.
Hey Isaiah, I don't know if you can see the chat, but we can't hear you.
How about now? Okay. Oh, hey, Benjamin Griffith is on. That's good to know. Oh, it's Sarah Jordan. Okay. Well, I need to go fire some webinar tech people. Yeah, you do verbally interrupt me if I suddenly am unhearable, because I am in full screen mode on this Prezi, and so I don't know what's going on. All right, so I'll rewind just a tad. Forget that. Whatever. These guys, lots of research, important speaking things. This is how I coach executives, CEOs, myself, the Success Framework. It's an acronym. I'll tell you what all the words are for. But what I was saying is that the hardest part about being a communicator is not putting two words together once you know something. It's not saying too many things. So earlier today, I judged a LD debate round, and at the end of it, we counted, forgetting the applications, the support, the examples, we counted 11 different abstracts going on, like freedom and equity, obviously, but then all these other words: human rights, fringe benefits, prosperity. Shoot, I don't even remember them all. But there was so much that, as an audience member, the factors of what you're trying to process is just too much information. So the debater has to remember and trust with discipline that keeping it simple is actually a preferable way to have your ideas heard. And it means that you've done the processing of saying, I have 7 DAs, and this one is the only one I'm going to run because it's the only one that matters most, even though the others kind of matter. And you're able to articulate that simply and clearly. That's persuasive communication. So, Success Framework, simple to start with. The fewer words you can say it in, the better. Unexpected is the second one. What this means in debate is that you want to cause chatter in the judge room. Someone should go back and say something that they learned from your debating. Someone should say, oh, I never knew that, and I don't know what it is. Armenia is a country. No, they should say something along the lines of, I never knew that we didn't have any formal treaty with Israel. That's kind of a big deal. That's weird. You wouldn't have expected that. Unexpected facts and information help you connect with your audience. Concrete. Concrete means that instead of speaking in abstract, like words like equity and so on, you speak in, the figure of speech is synecdoche, but you let some example stand for what you're talking about. So you don't want to just speak theory like I'm speaking now. Instead, you want to be a bumper sticker, a commercial, a soundbite that someone can latch onto visually in their mind. the ability to visualize something you're saying makes loads of sense. So when you're talking about the country of Iran, like for me, something I found powerful, whenever I talk to people about Iran, I say, you know, when you go look at pictures of Iran, you'll see girls in purple ski coats made by Columbia Sportswear on ski lifts. If you go to Flickr and just look at pictures of Iran, it's not what you think of it as by reading the news. And suddenly I've created an image in people's mind that they can start to see, oh, it's a real place with real normal people too. And maybe they also have media that screams the loudest, most dramatic stuff, you know, and that's not everything that describes Iran. That's what concrete means. You want to create imagery. Okay, simple, unexpected, concrete, clear, emotional stories. Emotional and stories. This is the hardest thing to achieve, especially in the first speeches, the idea of being emotional. But what that doesn't mean is being dramatic. Emotional means that you're talking about something that matters. And I think that when you're discussing the Middle East, you're almost always discussing something that matters. But the reason that this is important is because you spend all your time now in the data and the research, and you're mentioning something that impacts real people's lives for the 400th time, and to you it's almost boring at this point. It's not that you don't care, it's just you don't really think about it anymore. And if you can dial that back and remember that you're talking about sometimes life and death, certainly livelihoods, certainly decades of past wrong and decades of future right or wrong, you can make your arguments appeal to the full human soul.
Hey, Isaiah.
Yeah.
Rebecca's back. She wants you to add her to the Hangout.
All right, all right. Thank you for the skillful communication. Oh, there are more plus signs to click. I'm going to click them all again. Rebecca. This was certainly less painful than flying to Minneapolis, but this was also somewhat a frustrating experience. Rebecca. She's not in this list anymore. Click that again. I don't know why. Hey, but at least my voice is coming through this time, right? Right?
Yeah.
Thanks. All right, well, somebody interrupt me when Rebecca says something worthwhile. Stories. Whoa. Oh, credible. It wasn't clear. I thought simple and clear sounded too similar. Last of all, stories. The concept here is, I think, very related to unexpected. It's that you're talking about something that people want to tell again. And I know when you watch a speech, like think back to speeches you remember, because I've seen probably 2,000 and I remember probably 5, but some of them from a long time ago and some of them not 5 minutes after I walk out of the same boring extemp speech that I've seen before. And you usually remember one of two things. You remember an unexpected thing you learned, or you remember a story. And if you can tell a story that illustrates how your policy came to be, or the future that will be after your policy is in effect, that's low-hanging fruit for a debater, because that's easy to describe, but those stories matter, and they stick in your judge's minds. There's a bunch of arrows. Okay, so avoiding debater speak. We're persuading our normal audiences. The first thing is to pick your best point. That means that if you have 3 disads, if you actually save your time and speak more slowly and develop with debate theory and support your best point, you're doing yourself a favor. It is better to have one strong point than 3 strong points. Always. Smart person says smart thing.
Hey, Isaiah.
Yeah.
Rebecca says that the Hangout says it's full.
Well, Rebecca, in the Hangout, stop being. Whoa.
It's working!
What?
Hi!
Hi, Rebecca.
You better keep teaching for a bit, though, because my internet still kind of keeps going in and out.
Okay. Were you able to hear me at all?
Yeah, I could hear everything you said. Good job.
Well, great. Thanks. This is review for a lot of people, so I'm not spending a lot of time on it. I think for me, blitzing through the basics always helps me remember what to do right before a big tournament or speaking event. I had to give a big conference talk to people called Chief Strategy Officers out in San Francisco a couple weeks back, and I blitzed through all this same exact stuff that we're looking at right here to weed out some of the items I had planned and hone it down to keep it perfect. Okay, so this guy is a good speaker, no matter what you think about him, and he changed his message through his campaign from the issues in this election are, and let's just pretend, in this first negative constructive, I will be covering our budget deficit, consistency of foreign policy, and the economy, to it's the economy, stupid. This sticks, and this does not. This is forgotten. I can't remember it. See if you can remember it. What are the 3 issues that he's going to talk about? I think it was economy, something foreign policy, and I honestly forget the 3rd. Maybe it was budget. I don't care. It's hard to remember. And the reason that in legal research it's recommended to stick to fewer points is something that I touched on in the first webinar, which is we're relying on you to be the advisor to us as an audience. And when you give us tons of data points, it seems like you're relying on us to be the analyst and us to process with our brains what we think. And that's probably why you get surprising ballots sometimes, because you're asking us to use our reasoning to weigh unlike things. If you have advantage 1, the economy, and advantage 2, lives saved, if you lose lives saved but win the economy, should I vote for you? If you lose economy but win lives saved, should I vote for you? I don't know, because you're mixing issues that are hard to mix, and so you're relying on my analytical power. Whereas if you've determined that based on the amount of lives saved and the likelihood, which are impact calculus, lives saved is the advantage you're going to talk about, and you don't even mention the economy, you haven't done yourself a disservice, even though you're right about the economy and can answer economic disadvantages with that point if needed, but you've gone and done the hard work of analytical processing, and you're recommending exactly why I make a decision.
Ooh, Isaiah?
Yes.
Can I tell a story about that?
Yes.
Okay, so yesterday, I think I told you guys a little bit about this yesterday. So I'm interning at the Pentagon for the Air Force, and I got to sit on this 4-star lieutenant general giving a talk. Maybe he's a 3-star. He's a 3-star lieutenant general. Giving a talk about the development of the F-35, which is our latest fighter plane. And so it's a really big deal, and it's a program that has gone on for 10 years and has had a lot of disasters and is extremely complicated because there's like 14 different nations involved in it. Anyhow, so he spent 2 hours sitting at a conference table with 8 think tank members explaining the program. And so it was just me and the 2 press officers and these 8 think tank guys and the general. And so he just spends 2 hours explaining this incredibly complex process. And I'm coming into this internship knowing nothing about fighter planes and nothing about the Air Force. And it was so cool because this guy was so concise and so good at saving his words, and he had the best one-liners. Like, they would ask him these really complicated questions, and he would just throw out this one line that perfectly explained it, and it was just such a model to me in communication. But what really struck it to me was that he realized what I think a lot of us as debaters sometimes fail to realize, and that is that concise and witty isn't an antonym of smart, that he was expressing really his deep brilliance by being simple, by being witty, and by making these incredibly complex things simple. So whenever you're tempted to use 7 sub-points and talk really fast and give all this data and make your audience try to cull what they can from the data, you're not demonstrating your brilliance. You're really demonstrating your inability to be concise and to pull out the smart things, which is what your job as a debater is to do. And watching that general do that yesterday just really reiterated that for me, that here's this guy that's the top expert on that, but he didn't just throw data at his audience. He cut it up and served it to them, and it was so cool. Just a thought.
That's great, because I remember before the F-35 program, back when I debated, it's funny, actually my entire debate career, George Bush was president, and for most of it we were at war. That was interesting. But yeah, way back in '01 and '02, it was all about the F-22, which was the program kind of before the F-35, which we spent lots and lots of money on. And there's all this stuff, like really interesting data. The Economist had an article about how if we keep raising our budgets the way we do per plane, even while the rest of us are getting cheaper and cheaper technology according to Moore's Law, when it's bought through the military, by the year 2060, the entire military budget will buy exactly 1 aircraft. It was hilarious. But there's a line that stuck with me forever, and it's not even that clever of a line. But now, every time I think about the F-22, and I was really into planes, is this one line about how they really came up with the plans in 1980. And then it took all this politics and engineering and back and forth and bloat, and they never really, it took forever to get off the ground. And so somebody just said, it's yesterday's technology for tomorrow's war.
Mm.
And I've thought about that ever since. And I remember that phrase exactly like that. And so whenever I think of that, weapon, I think of that. I don't remember any of the actual data about the F-22, but I know I was persuaded with that, and that's highly memorable. It's clever. It's actually a figure of speech. It's just juxtaposition and an isocolon. But it's stuck in my mind for years, over a decade. That's what we want to be capable of. Okay, whatever. I'll give links to this, and we have 2 others like this that are great review that you can click through on your own. So don't worry if you feel like I'm not going into depth on some things. We're keeping it high level. So JFK will put a man on the moon and return him safely by the end of a decade was a bold promise. That's an example of concrete. So compare that to our relations hurt disadvantage. Foreign relations hurt. That's not concrete. We won't be able to resist Egypt when it invades Israel next. That's far more concrete as a disadvantage, and it can possibly mean the exact same thing. So you want to have in our mind, as you walk out of a debate round, when there's a disadvantage or even an advantage, not the theory behind it of we're going to explore space, but something very specific and concrete. This is how a debater would have said what JFK said.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because, but instead, you've got slugs and you've got farmers on the left.
Ooh, I have a comment on that. Something we talked about a lot in my communications theory classes is what is memorable to people is things that appeal to multiple senses. So, like a slug is really cool because it's slimy and we can see what it looks like, so I can feel it, I can see it. If you've played with enough slugs or snails, they kind of have a weird musty smell to them. They don't really make a noise, but like anytime you can use an example that uses multiple sensations, and a great example of this is, okay, think if you're going to the grocery store and I tell you you need to bring ketchup, you need to buy ketchup, eggs, bread, and milk, and mustard. Ketchup, eggs, bread, milk, and mustard. You're not going to remember that in 2 minutes. But my professor always does at the beginning of the year, gives us that grocery list, and he does it with sensory information. So he'll say, take that egg, crack it on your elbow. Now it's gooey, running down your arm, and it smells like raw egg, and you can feel the goo, and you can feel the little pieces of shell, and you can see the glistening white egg white. And so he goes through each of the foods like that, and we can always remember them at the end of the year because he's applied it to all your different senses, which is really a cool exercise, but it's something how our brain works. So anytime that you can make a example appeal to multiple senses, that you can talk about the smoke of the ruins of Palmyra when ISIS is bombing it, like anything to appeal to senses will stick in your judge's mind, and hopefully they'll remember it sitting back filling out their ballot.
That's good. Have you ever smelled a fire? Not like a fire you intend to build, but like a house burning down or something nasty fire. Well, a war zone smells 10 times as worse. And as a result of my affirmative team's plan, you are creating a smoking cauldron of war in the Middle East. Now we've added the sense of smell. I like that. Good one. All right, I'm going to skip this stuff. Blah, blah. Big numbers, concrete. Okay, if you do have numbers, this is what you're supposed to do with them. And there are dozens of websites that help you make these calculations of how many dollar bills stacked to the moon and back is, $7 billion or whatever. You need to be making these comparisons. Oh, story for you. I did this today. I was on a sales call, and I was helping one of our guys sell. And what we sell helps you sometimes at big companies reduce meetings. Well, found out that this company that we were talking to has every quarter a 2-day offsite meeting with 11 executives, and once a year they add an additional 17. Okay? Nobody likes these things. You end up going and sticking sticky notes on walls and deciding what your challenges are using weird businessy jargon stuff like SWOT analyses and so on. And what we do is say, you know what, you can ask everybody questions with software ahead of time, and then nobody has to hop on a plane, and you can usually cancel your first day, if not both days, of these offsites and get better information and make your decisions faster. Okay? Whatever. We were talking about costs, and what we were proposing costs around $12,000 a year to do it. And the guy at the other end, like, he wasn't super put back by that, but he was thinking, well, how do I sell that? And I'm like, listen, do you realize that if you have 10 executives in a room for 1 hour, the average cost of their salaries on an hourly basis is somewhere around $300 to $600 an hour, and you got 10 of them. So do the math there. If I can cut 2 hours out of your offsite, then you've already paid for this. And I'm telling you that you can cut a day out of your offsite 4 times a year minimum. And you're like, whoa, that's a no-brainer. Those are the sorts of comparisons that take the idea of $12,000 and turn them into a comparison. That's what you will have to do with numbers. Wonder how likely you are to be hit by a whale while submarining. Oh no. Okay. Oh, this is the exercise we always do. We're not doing it right now. Blah, blah, blah. Concrete stuff. Blah, blah, blah. You can read about that later. Now we're just repeating ourselves, saying the same point over and over.
Hey, I when I had a persuasive in 2012 that I won nationals with, that's what my persuasive was about. How when we look at one, we actually do, whereas when we look at a gazillion, we don't. Just a random fact.
I thought you were going to say that your persuasive was about repetition.
No, it was
How
about
do you win
Mother
nationals
Teresa
with that?
quote. I quoted Mother Teresa in my speech.
Okay. I'm blitzing through some of this. Oh yeah, this is good.
Pomelo. I've only given this presentation like 5 times, but still, it's really good. Pomelo.
You can take over at any point.
Well, when you're done with this, I'll talk a little bit about narrative structure because that was something I kind of came up with.
Yeah,
that,
sure.
Yeah. I wanted to share with them.
Okay.
But get through this first.
Yeah, this is making the same point just 1,000 times. Defining South America as like this is new. I have not seen this before. Dating advice is in here. I have not seen this before either. This is fantastic. It's also repetitive. All right. Being emotional.
Will you fight?
Oh, I wish we had time for this.
I think we do. I think we have time for that.
Do we? Okay, can you hear it? Like, is it not too weird
Yeah,
being played
I
out
can hear it.
my speakers through your delay that you already have?
I can hear
All
it.
right. And we will live. Shame on you. This could be the greatest night of our lives. But you're going to let it be the worst. And I guarantee you, we won't go by in your life. You won't regret walking out, letting them get the best of it. Well, I'm not going home. You've got too far! And I'm going to stay right here and fight for this lost cause. The day may come when the courage of men fails. But it is not this day. The line must be drawn here. This far, no farther.
I'm not saying it's going to be easy.
You're going to work harder than you ever worked before. But that's fine. We'll just get tougher with it.
If a person grits his teeth and shows real determination,
Failure is not an option. That's how winning is done. Believe me when I say we can break this army here. And win just one for the Gitman. But I say to you, what every warrior has known since the beginning of time, you've got to get mad. I mean plumb mad dog mean. If you would be free men, then you must fight to fulfill that promise. Let us cut out their living guts 1 inch at a time.
And they will know what we can do!
Let no man forget how menacing we are. We are lions, like a big bear, man. This is your time. Seize the day. Never surrender. Victory or death. Who's with me?
Clap! Clap! Don't let him die! Clap!
All right, let's fly. And gentlemen in England, now a bed. Shall know my name is the law. When I tell our enemies that they may take our lives, but they'll never take our Independence Day.
Basically, be epic.
Oh man, that hurts. Okay. I don't want to watch that again. Oh yeah. Okay. So they did a study, and basically, if you tell people statistics, they don't give as much money as if you tell them about one person. So, stories. Twice as much. This means, as hard as it is to believe, if you have 7 cards, or you have 6 advantages or disadvantages or whatever, the fewer you have, the more their power. And that's what you want. More studies. And then there were some videos. And then almost nobody could recall any statistic that they heard during class. But the majority could remember the story. And that's what you want. Oh, man. We're doing it now, though. Right here. This is TMI. Okay. To sum up, you as a debater have the curse of knowledge of your topic. You need to do the analysis and make the choices. And don't push that to us, because that's inviting judge intervention. And that invites random ballots. You as the analyst presenter, if you've determined what's most important, I'm going to believe you, because you'll have a great argument for that, and more likely than not at nationals, you'll be the only one to make an argument for that, and that will stand. Okay. Rebecca, back to you. If you're here. Come in, Rebecca. There's an infinity point. All right, no Rebecca. So let me pause for a minute and take questions. I have so much more to go on this topic. I have some practical stuff. I have some theoretical stuff. But
I cut out for a second.
yeah, we noticed that. So I was going to take some questions. Pause, take some questions, do a little segue, take a little break, and then we can dive into the last question.
Okay. Yeah, if you lose me, my internet's been weird.
All right, 5-minute break, and then we will come back and close out. Hey, are people back? All right, I have a frustrating alternative because Rebecca's internet went out again. But we are Innovative Solutions. So I just signed up for a free trial at GoToMeeting, which actually gives us a phone number. So you can either click that link, install some stuff, and use your mic and telephone, your mic on your computer, or you can dial in and use the access code stuff. And Rebecca is going to speak to you there, and I'm going to tell Webinars on Air to give me my money back because I'm mad at them. And that will be that. So, abandoning ship from Google, moving over to GoToMeeting.
Could you email me that link? Because for whatever reason, I can't open any chat boxes or anything like that.
Yes.
Thanks.
Let's see. Oh, good. People are already joining. That's good. And then I'm just going to email the entire group. Whew. All right, I've just sent that out. There's Marina and Jacob and Micah. Okay, good. All right, so I'm going to drop out of the Google Chat thing and drop into the GoToMeeting thing.
could probably try and do it on this computer.
Well, yeah, but I don't think he sent me the link. Hey, has the link been? Did you send the link yet? Or can anyone hear me at all?
Yeah, he sent it.
Okay. Must not have gotten it. Oh, there's a ton of people in this tiny little chat. Okay.